Today, I'm going to share with you one of the hidden secrets that I have, and it's a conversation I have in my mind on a regular basis each and every day. So, in these experiences that we have that we call life, if we back up prior to the current chapter that we're in, life had its challenges. Regardless of who you are and where you have been and what successes and what experiences and lessons you've learned on your journey, life carried with it its challenges, its difficulties, its lessons, its burdens. And I learned long ago that it wasn't just me who had difficulties and challenges and problems and issues happening. As I got to speaking with friends and family members, I realized, whoa, they don't have the picture perfect life either. It's not what you see on Instagram. It's not what you see on the perfect family TV show. It's called life. And prior to all of this scenario that we're in throughout the world right now, I learned something that I would remind myself subconsciously and speak to myself when dealing with others is I don't know what their challenges or issues or problems are, but I know they have some, right? Regardless of if they're a superstar, with huge amounts of financial success, and it appears to be the most amazing relationship, and it appears everything is tip top in their health. Appearances aren't always the reality. I've been working with some of the best, well-known, appreciated actors, or not actors, sports athletes and marketers and businessmen and women. And I've been able to see the people who have, from the outside, the picture perfect life. The results are amazing financially. It appears their relationships are incredible. It appears their health is incredible. But guess what? Behind the scenes, they're human as well. And there are ups and downs in businesses. And if you're a business owner, you know this. Yes, the business can be good, and that entrepreneurial chart is like, everything's amazing, this is great. Oh my God, this sucks. I think I'm going bankrupt. Oh, we're back up. Oh, nope, we're down again. It's an interesting journey as an entrepreneur, similar to a roller coaster. Yet we love the adrenaline and the challenges that are constantly brought for us to solve, that continually get larger and larger. So business has its ups and downs. And guess what? So do relationships. And guess what? So does health. So I, in my mind, a long time ago realized, it's not just me who has situations and challenges going on. It's pretty much everybody. If we're still breathing and not yet buried and gone, we have problems and challenges. And here's my philosophy, what I've learned. We're either in some situations now, whether it's our health, or someone close to us' health, our relationship or someone close to us relationship, or our financial situation. And sometimes it's a combination of two of those three, and sometimes we get the trifecta where all three are happening. And that was prior to all this. And that's back when we had the commonality was there's 24 hours in a day, and we're human, and there's going to be problems. But that said, everyone puts their best face forward on social media. It appears like everything is rainbows and unicorns, right? And that was prior to this corona situation and the lockdown and all this other craziness that's occurred. But now we have the other equalizer of not just time and not just the fact that we're human and have issues, but we have some common issues, right? Travel is restricted, events are restricted. A lot of things we now, when we had free range humans, we're now caged humans. So we got that going for us. And I just was talking with my son who graduated high school this year. He hasn't had a graduation ceremony. He wasn't able to finish his senior year with his friends and go through all the fun adventures that happen in a senior year. So he just was given the graduation date. I happen to be in Florida. The graduation's in New York, and there's a 2-week quarantine or something in New York. So we're trying to see what the logistics and what possibilities are for that. But we went from free range humans to restricted caged humans. That said, there's some more things that we now have in common. And also, nothing changed from us being human. So we are either in some health issues ourselves or people close to us. We're in some relationship issues with our own relationships or people close to us. Or we're in financial situations with ourselves or people close to us. And it's exacerbated. And it's exponentially more than it was a few months ago because of the restrictions that we have been all subjected to. So the bottom line is everyone not only has stuff going on, the stuff is much higher. The uncertainty is much higher. The fear in many cases is much higher. So we as humans have stuff happening. And the conversation I have when I catch myself going down tracks of not feeling confident of what's mine to do, or being overwhelmed with a lot of, whether it's so much to get done, and that can lead to overwhelm, and then you have to just get back to the basic of you can only eat an elephant one way, one bite at a time, right? So prioritize out of all this stuff that needs to get done, what's the most important? But the secret conversation I have is the text that led you to this message. So when I find myself doubting or having fears or getting anxious, I have literally a conversation with God, Almighty, the designer of all, the creator of everything, knows all, thinks differently from us, is not worried. It's unfolding exactly as it is meant to be unfolding. Not necessarily what we would think if we were in charge, how it would be unfolding, but we're not in charge. We don't see the overall large, infinite picture. We see the little tiny hole through the wall speck of our, whatever our life is. 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years is a blink in the time of the infinite perspective. So we see it as all important and every little thing being so vital in emergency and all this, but from God's perspective, it's all under control. So I have this conversation from God asking me, Tom, do you trust me? Well, I guess. Well, then why do you have any fear, any worry? Do you trust me? And then I reflect back on times in my life when I felt there not only was no light at the end of the tunnel, as that story goes, the only light I did see was definitely a train that was going to come run me over and finish me off, because there was no way out of those particular situations, whether they were health, relationships, or finances. Many times in my life. How about you? Did you ever have any of those times in your previous journeys? And I go back to those moments and think, man, it surely didn't go as the way I would have liked it to have gone. And it surely was way more difficult than I ever imagined. It surely took way much more time than I ever thought it would for me to get out of that particular situation. But in retrospect, I can look back and be thankful for those moments, because those were where the biggest, most important lessons that were meant to be learned from that led me to being who I am today. And that leads to that quote from Napoleon Hill, who says, every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. So those huge adversities in time can be looked back with gratitude, saying I'm thankful that I went through that because I learned that lesson that had I not gone through that crap, I would have never learned. So we may not be there yet in all of this that's happening. We might be able to, oh, I'm so happy all of this is happening the way it's happening right now. No, generally there's a little bit of a delay in time. So that quote does take some time in many cases. However, I've talked with some friends where this turn has put their prior business, in many cases, out of business, and it put a pivot into place that is exceeding their previous business, right? So it's different scenarios for everyone that I've chatted with. Now, on the flip side, I've talked with some people who had a job or had a business and that went away, and they've still been figuring out what that next step is, right? So it's not like an instant poof, oh my God, I'm so thankful this tragedy occurred, and this is tragic times. Like, look, the bottom line is life, none of us get out of here alive. And yes, this new situation adds one more thing that could take us out of here. So we got car accidents, we got cancer, we got heart attack, we got people killing other people, we got, I'm in Florida, I could get eaten by a gator on my walk, get bit by a snake, get bit by a spider, all these different scenarios. This is one more scenario. And it's up to us to assess the situation and take the proper steps that help us survive, help our family survive. And it's individual for each of us in the locations that we are and the surroundings that we have and different harmful things that are out there that might take our life away. It's up to you to discern for yourself and for your family what are the steps to keep you and your family protected. And that's different for everybody. And there's no right way, there's no wrong way. You do you and I'll do me, right? And discern and trust that you've done pretty well so far because you're still here. So congratulations. You got pretty good discernment of taking the right steps so far. But this is real, right? And there's people died prior to this 150,000 people each day died on average prior to this. I think it's still around that there's no huge spike, but there's still around 150,000 people that die each day. And it sucks to lose your own life, right? I've had a near-death experience. I'm back. I have a whole different story that might take us down some paths, but I've lost my mother at 52 years old in 2007, my father 2 years later in 2009 at 56. I was there for both of their last breaths. It sucks to lose family members. I shed tears hearing about losing a close friend who had some illnesses and got COVID and is no longer here, and I was not expecting him to not be here anymore. I shed some tears hearing about that. Rest in peace, Bernie Dorman, founder of CEO Space, right? Super sad, very impactful in my life. And I was shedding tears when I heard that he's no longer here. And then a close friend of mine, Joe Jablonski's aunt, passed away. And that had me shedding some tears as well for Joe and the loss of his aunt. And you may have loss, right? And that's part of this journey, which sucks. And it's nothing that any of us can predict. And sometimes we forget how brief this journey is, and that we think, well, I'm 47 now. I'll be 48 in a few months. Well, I'll live to be 70 or 80. I don't know that. I don't know, and you don't know if we're going to live to tomorrow or next week or next month or next year. We hope, and we're taking the proper steps to hopefully protect ourselves so we can be around here for multiple decades to come. But none of us know. That's the rub, right? So what I would say is, instead of me sitting down and writing out all the things that I could die from, another person killing me, a car wreck, a cancer, a heart attack, stroke, COVID, tuberculosis, you name it, getting eaten by a gator, eaten by a shark, bit by a snake or a spider. Instead of all that, I'm going to trust in my discernment of protecting myself, protecting my family, taking the proper steps, and living my life. What I am thinking about is what's next. I have this analogy. So I have that talk with God. God asks me, do you trust me? And if I'll fight it a couple times. Yeah, God, but does it really have to go this way? Why don't you think about this? Have you considered this? In my conversation, God laughs. Like, yeah, from your perspective, I can see how that makes sense. But do you trust me? And yeah, I do trust you. It's unfolding exactly. And it's up to me to just get clear on what's next. I've learned to tap into my heart. I feel that's where my intuition. You ever had that little feeling like, man, this is what I got to say. I just feel like called to say this or do this or talk to that person or go, record this video. I feel called to do it. And I'm going to do that, right? So when I talk with my kids about this, whenever we go to amusement parks, we have a blast. First one's there, last one's to leave. And we know where we're going first, what ride we're hitting first. And when that's over, okay, where next? Where next? Okay, we're going on this again? Great. Are we going to next? Okay, where's the next? How do we get there? What's next? So wherever this video crosses paths with you in your life, what's next? Have that excitement similar to the journey to the amusement park. At least that's how me and my kids are. What's next? And everything. Okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? And finally we go, crap. Oh, you're hungry? Okay, who wants to eat? Okay, you want to eat? Great. Where are we going to eat? Great. We eat. Then what? Then what, right? It's always what's next? What's next? What next? Now, if you can bring that to your excitement of life, what's next? What's next? What's next? What next? Okay, I'm watching this video. What's next? Well, I got some things to do. And then what's next? Later on this evening, there's a UFC fight. I enjoy UFC fights. This is a pretty good one tonight. It's at the Abu Dhabi Fight Island, first one there. So I'm going to plug into that and watch that while I'm doing some other stuff. So I'll be getting some other work done while I'm watching that, but I'll enjoy that. And what's next? And after that, I'll be sleeping. And then what's next? I'll wake up and I got things to do. And I'll know what's mine to do when I wake up. What's next? What's next? What's next? And in my opinion, that's what Napoleon Hill says in his book, Outwitting the Devil, leading not a life as a drifter, but a non-drifter. There's roughly 2%, 2 out of 100 people who know what's next, who know where they're going. So it's literally like getting into a boat and knowing, hey, we're going there. We have a destination picked out on whether it's a pond or a lake or an ocean. We're leaving here and we're exiting here and we're entering there. And we're going to adjust the course appropriately to get there. And guess what? If a big storm comes or something unexpected occurs, you can always change course with new information. Say, hey, we started on track to there, but with this new information, we're adjusting course to go over here. That's perfectly fine. It's life. It's up to you. You can control your thoughts, your words, and your actions, but I would encourage you to, one, find comfort in possibly having conversations with God. He and I are good friends. I don't hear much from him, but I have great conversations from him. He pretty much asks me, "Do you trust me?" And I'll try to convince him of why my ways might be some ways he needs to consider. And he always answers, "Do you trust me?" And finally, I'm like, you know what? Looking back on my history, yes, I'll just trust in that. And I'll trust in God speaking to me in my heart as to what is mine to think, speak, and do, to determine and discern what's next. And that brings me much peace. And along with my witnessing my parents both have their last breaths, what I consider at early ages, 52 and 56, made me recognize that this journey is brief regardless of how long we live. And going with that strategy of what's next, I'm going to have many more memories than regrets. And yet at that same sentence, period, to that sentence, I have a lot more I want to accomplish. And I am on journey to what's next. And I am leading a life of a non-drifter. Most of the time. And I'm going to say this, just like I talked about earlier. I got problems. I got issues. I got things I'm working through, personally, professionally. All this because I'm human too. So I'm a non-drifter most of the time, and then I'll wake up out of a fog where I caught myself drifting for a few hours. Whoa, what the heck? I'm just drifting around. Whoa, unintentionally. What's going on? Okay, where am I? Where do I want to go? What's next? And I used to, by the way, this is a little timeout side note, because I know a lot of friends are watching this that are entrepreneurs. I used to think the what's next answer was always revenue producing activities, business related activities. And that led me to workaholism for a few years. And now I have matured to the point where I know that the what's next sometimes is shut everything down and go for a walk. Shut everything down. Let's go do something with Wanda and I. Shut everything down. Let's go do something with the kids. Right? And it's personal and professional. It's up to you to discern what's next. Taking care of yourself, putting your oxygen mask on first. Remember when we used to fly? You'd hear them say, in a case of emergency, and if the oxygen mask comes down, put your mask on first before helping others. Take care of yourself. What's next might be some self-care for you, to go read, to go write, to go listen to some audios, to go for a walk, to go work out. Something that's going to take care of you so that you can better take care of other people. But the what's next answer is definitely not all business related by a long shot. It goes into all the important areas, personally and professionally, your health, your relationship, your finances. And it's up to you to discern and strengthen those muscles of confidently not having fear of missing out. When you take control of this, you trust your ability to discern the answer to what's next. And when you make that decision, it doesn't lead you to say, oh, well, man, I wish I was doing this, or, oh, no, I'm missing out on that. No, you have no fear of missing out because you're leading your life intentionally as a non-drifter. Fear of missing out is for drifters, people who aren't clear. That's like the amusement park analogy. Okay, great, we're going to this next ride. And then we're on the ride in the line. Man, well, I wish we'd have went to the other ride. Oh, wait, what? No, we're here. Enjoy this. And then at the end of this, we can go to the next ride, right? Enjoy the moment. Fear of missing out goes out the window. Fear in particular needs to go out the window, right? When you grasp life and embrace some of the things I've talked about in this brief conversation here today, fear doesn't really cross my mind much. And hopefully, if you embrace this type of mentality and philosophy, it will lessen in your life and doesn't cross your mind as much. You handle fear when it's necessary. Fight or flight kicks in, but here's the good news. Most of the time, it's just your overactive adrenal system trying to protect you from dying when chances are real good you're not going to die. That's the bottom line. Until it's time where you might need to die, and you got to fight or flight. And that's a very rare occasion for most people. But your body's always on alert for it. So to calm that adrenal gland down, the adrenaline down. And so when people jump in your mask and tell you, you need to have a mask on, or how dare you have a mask on, either way, you're like, oh, wow, interesting perspective. Thank you. And it doesn't have to be a combative fight or flight scenario. That's one example of many, by the way. There are some great resources. There's a movie on Netflix. It's a great documentary psychological experiment called Push, about how most people conform to the group. Most people won't hold firm in what they know is in their heart what's right and wrong. They will conform and push themselves out into what the group wants them to do. I, as someone who was born to teenagers and raised around 4 divorces and 6 marriages, I always wanted to be the peacemaker. So for a while, there was a part of me who would override what I knew I was meant to say or do, or hold firm and say, no, I don't want to do that. And I would get, and this is going back decades, I would get pushed over into doing something that just didn't feel right to me. And the consequences would come. And I would reap those consequences. And I finally learned, like, look, I have an internal guide pretty much of that keeps me on track with my decisions. And if I override it, like if I know this is the right way to go, and yet everyone's, oh no, let's go over here. Like back to the amusement park example. Going to this one amusement park and there's one ride I really want to go on. Well, everyone there doesn't like that ride. The old 25 plus years ago me was like, all right, fine, I won't go on that ride. No, I'll be like, all right, great. Y'all go that way. I'm going to go ride that ride. It's your life. You don't have to go with the crowd. You can stand firm in your beliefs. And it took me time to learn that. And it took me time, like, I was just reflecting, what was it, 1992? July of 92. So however many years, 28 years ago was the Guns N' Roses Metallica concert. None of my friends wanted to go to this concert. Blew my mind. Like, wait, Guns N' Roses and Metallica. No one wants to go. All right, I'm going. And I was talking to my dad. Well, who are you going with? I'm like, no, nobody. Nobody wants to go. He's like, you're going by yourself? I'm like, yeah. Like, okay, cool. I bought one ticket, drove to Buffalo, and went to the Guns N' Roses and Metallica concert and had a blast. Versus, oh crap, none of my friends want to go, so I guess I'm not going. What? And miss out? Like, look, this is your life. You can live your life on your terms. Obviously, I had ridiculously crappy friends who didn't appreciate the amazingness of that joke, right? They just didn't want to go, and that's their choice. So the movie the movie Push shows that in a clear example. And then another example that's quite interesting is of an emergency. And this is something that, if you study history, human history is jacked up, man. Humans love killing humans. And all of our technological advances over the hundreds of years, have been on humans trying to figure out a way to kill more humans faster and quicker, easier, and more efficiently. Anyhow, in the Cuban Missile Crisis time, there was that serious standoff when Russia had ships coming into Cuba, and America was saying, if you bring those ships in, we're going to engage. And it was literally, the clock was ticking towards nuclear war. As the story unfolds, there was a submarine there. What the Americans didn't know is there was nuclear weapons on that submarine. They were dropping depth charges that were going off, and it impacted the sub, and the sub started to didn't crash, but they thought the sub was going to be pretty much dead in the water, and the people were close to dying in the sub, and their communication got shut off. And so they didn't know what was happening. They had no contact with the outside world. They thought that war had been engaged. And there were 3 people that had to have unanimous authorization to fire the nuclear weapon on the ship. 2 of the 3 were ready to go. 1 person held off and didn't feel that was the right thing. And the other 2 were like, look, it's already happening, and if we don't do this, we're going to be the disgrace of our country, and we're going to be dead anyhow. Like, this is to save our country, our face, our reputation. And the one man stood firm, as the story goes, and his choice to not go with the majority saved humanity from nuclear devastation. And here's the other rub of it. No one knows his name. Very few people know his name. It's a name I can't really pronounce that well. Vasily Arkhipov. If you Google search Cuban Missile Crisis submarine, you'll see the story. But this one man held firm in his beliefs and didn't fold to what the peer pressure was. And I can just imagine, that's some serious peer pressure of, look, dude, like this, I'm sure it was not an easy situation to hold your ground, to hold his ground. But he saved the world, the human race, from nuclear devastation from holding its ground. So I'm sharing this with you to let you know this too shall pass. To let you know every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. And to let you know it takes a little time sometimes for that to come true. But in the meantime, have that conversation with God and reflect back on the times when you thought all was lost. Whether it was a health scenario, a relationship scenario, or a financial scenario, or a combination. And I have many. Like, I don't know if it's just me. I got a lot that I can reflect upon. Like, yep, that time. Like, crap. Like, give me a break. No, they keep coming, man. So it will pass, and the lesson will be learned. And in the meantime, instead of focusing on all the ways that you could die, I found that many people are so fearful of dying that they forget to live. So take advantage of this amazing amusement park that we're in on Earth, this journey we call life, for a brief amount of time, regardless if we live to tomorrow, next week, next month, next decade, or 5 more decades. It goes fast. Just like if you go to an amusement park, whether it's for a day, 3 days, 5 days, or 2 weeks, goes fast. Make sure you know what's next. Make sure you're clear on where you're going. Make sure you are more of a non-drifter more than you are a drifter. And I know you are, because you're here watching this. So if you want to gain some inspiration about how one person who's not even really known literally saved the world, that might help you answer your question. Well, what can I do? Well, what you can do in living your life is, when you tap into that "do you trust me" connection with God, and you trust your heart, you'll think, you'll speak, you'll act in accordance with what you feel is yours to do, which brings you a lot of peace, which brings you a lot of joy, which brings you less fear, less worry, less anxiety, regardless of the challenges that surely and definitely will also be waiting for you. And they will be bigger, and they will be stronger, they'll be more difficult than they are now. Just like in Mario Brothers, the next level doesn't get easier, the next level gets harder. So there we have it. That's a peek into my brain, a peek into my conversation with God. Do I trust you? Yes, I trust you. And I also am reminded that I don't think the way you think. And that's another great thing in the conversations I have with God. Like, look, obviously I don't think. If I was in that role, I'd be doing things differently. But I'm not in that role, and it's unfolding exactly as it needs to unfold. And my role is to trust, and it's also to trust in what I'm feeling is mine to think, speak, and do. And in doing so, that is living life as a non-drifter. All right, hope that's helpful. I got some fun things to get to next. I hope you do as well. Hit me up with some feedback, shoot me some messages, some comments. Chat with you soon. Make today great.